All right, so let's just do it like this. Okay, when you have a conversation with ChatGPT, your conversation, you have many different conversations here on the left, and a conversation is actually a one-dimensional, linear sort of a system, right? I can go back to parts of my conversation and say, hey, I want to edit this and change this, but then the rest of any other thing that I say to the bot after that point in that other part of the conversation, that gets lost, and it gets put behind like a little left and right arrow here or something like that, where you can like switch back and forth. But essentially, you can't make your conversation all of the possibilities that your conversation could be, which is interesting because as we're talking to a machine, there's no reason why it couldn't be like that. So, oh, okay, all right. So here's the North Pole expedition, and if we just look at the is that supposed to, oh, is it, oh, I accidentally had it doing something else. Okay, well, I guess that's working on that. Good job. Okay, so let's just say that what you're actually doing here is instead of having a conversation in a straight line, like let's say this conversation here, right? So this conversation started at the same point, the North Pole expedition conquest. um, and the, oh, okay, North Pole expedition conquest. Okay. Okay. So anyway, the North Pole expedition conquest is a you could call it a topic, right? Now, when you take this concept out of the idea of chatbots and you put it into something that's more like a wiki or a web page, then you realize that it's not actually a straight line; it's a tree, because you can explore different things that happened at different moments in the conversation. And each point in the conversation, you get your own you get the ability to say something, and you get the ability for it to reply. And then you can continue the conversation, or you can try to edit what you just said. So like if I wanted to edit this and then have it go off on a different branch of the conversation, then all I would have to do is ask it for an edit for this in reference, say, make this a spec sheet, and I hit update. So this is updating this specific thing here. Let me just open up. Oh, this is the heavy icebreaker, huh? Icebreaker. So you can zoom in all the way down here and see. Oh, yeah, okay, where everything in this conversation is sort of led. And up here, you can see, oh, hey, look at that. I've got a, so not only over here, it's changed this to a spec sheet, but now I've also got it showing me, here, let me just let this go back to rest. So if I'm on this part right here, I can now continue the conversation, right? I could say, all right, let's go ahead and I'll ask a different thing about this, or I could just actually click on one of these links, which is the same thing. So let's just say technical specifications. Wow, it's 20 kilos. So I just added that, and you can see over here that it also got added. Oop. Hard to choose. Okay, I'll just look at it on this one. Weight specification, right? So if I go to the weight specification, on how this can be comment on how the weight might affect transport, and I could change this and how it's that. Stations. What was it, the HF radio? Okay, so if we look at that, by the way, this is, I just added on this feature to where you can change things. You can have multiple users connected to the same tree. And when you make edits on one side, on one user, the edits should show up on the other user's tree. HF radio weight impact on logistics. So if you were to look, so if I were to continue this conversation and I were to go add, then what you would see is that it would just keep going down further and further, infinitely small, and it would give me this entire line of this conversation, right? So if you think about conversation as more like a tree of possibilities of different things that could happen in the conversation and different places you could take it, that's exactly what this is. And these other purple links between those things are actually links between specific parts of the clicking on this is a little bit janky, but some of these include links to other things, right? Like, so this ECDIS includes links to like the radar entry, the GPS entry. So they cross-check each other for the topics and the tags that they're linked on. And all of that information you could see here. And then basically, yeah, so it's like, it's almost as if it is an infinitely expanding tree of information. And that's really cool. So that's pretty much what this is about. And then the other thing is like, okay, if you think about this hierarchy structure, hierarchies are all over the place, right? You could set up a whole world model just by having a hierarchy, and maybe these would be different colors because they're different types of things. But each of these conversations will take us on a completely different path through exploring this whole North Pole expedition. And everything stays fully in context because the context literally is just this line going back to the main route. Now, the other parts of the context, the other thing that I'm going to be adding here is I'm doing something that's not a semantic search-based RAG. So for right now, I'm just including the chat history, but what I wanted to do was I wanted to make it so that if it actually included a link inside of the text, like let's say we go back here and we see that this has links, right? So if you have these links and they link to each other, for instance, down here, the HF radio 1 links. Yeah, ECDIS, electronic chart displaying, whatever, right? So that links to that. And you can kind of like go back and forth between all those because that one, oh, geez. Because as you can see, this has these links that go from ECDIS navigation system to GPS system for Arctic navigation and the Arctic navigation radar system. Plus, so you end up with this really interesting thing where it allows us to sort of do RAG directly, and these are, if you look at these, then you could see which way sort of sideways context is pointing, right? Like, so imagine that the tree is growing, right? You can go up the branches. If you go from the leaf that you're on all the way down to the root, that's the chat history, right? But let's say you're like a squirrel going through the tree, right? Going along going sideways and you're jumping from branch to branch, right? Well, that represents sideways context, right? Like these two branches are close to each other, so I could jump from this one to the other one, even though they don't have like a specific hierarchical rhythm. They're not the parent or child of each other. They're peers, or it's the aunt, or something along those lines. So anyway, that's all pretty cool because, for instance, you got all these really interesting structures that can come out of it, but you can also see all that structure and how it all fits together, and how essentially the LLM will be interpreting what it is that you're saying or you're doing at that moment, or you're clicking on at that moment. Anyway, that's it for now, and hope you liked it.